We're now moving on to the smart city impact on city dimension and smart cities leading to smart countries. We'll be discussing such elements as the economy, innovation, entrepreneurship, mobility, transport, traffic, living, and governance. So it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed panelists, Mr. Safder Nazir, Regional Vice President, Smart City and IoT, Middle East of Huawei, Mr. Mohannad Samara, Director of Global Digital Business of Etisalat, Mr. Marwan Bin Damlouk, Senior VP of Managed Services and Smart City at DO, Mr. Maziad Nazir Al-Harbi, CTO of Mobily, Mr. Nizar Hneini, Managing Partner of Detecon, Mr. Sacha Dudler, General Manager of Corporate Performance Management and Strategy Execution of STC. And the moderator is Mr. Labib Matar, Managing Partner of NextGen. Please welcome them all to the stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending our panel discussion that's begun talking about the impact of smart city concept on the city itself. So we talk a lot about the smart city concept. We talk a lot about the technology that's being used, IoT, data ingestion, different types of services, and so on. But really, the proof should be in the pudding. The proof is what is the impact of these smart city initiatives and services on the city itself? What is the impact on the citizens living in the city, on the services of the city, and the infrastructure of the city? This is really the topic of this panel, and it's a nice complement to the previous session, which was focusing mainly on the ICT and data and big data aspects of the technology that's being used. So in order to address this in a systematic manner, what we're really doing is we are considering a widely used framework that allows us to systematically address the planning as well as the delivery of the services and initiatives across the dimensions of the city. The framework is a general framework that consists of 6 dimensions that tackle environment. You probably heard about it in earlier sessions. Environmental sustainability, sustainability of natural resources. It tackles mobility in terms of transport, traffic, road infrastructure. It tackles living, which is a very key dimension related to the quality of life of people living in the city, and that focuses on the healthcare, education, security and safety, housing, as well as governance and people. And the people side is, of course, very important. We're looking at how we can get people socially included. How do we respond better to residents and citizens' requirements using smart cities? This is really the framework we're looking at, and it's a framework that helps us define the initiatives per dimension, but also more importantly, measure the impact of those services. So they're not just initiatives for the sake of being initiatives or being smart services. They need to be measured, they need to be assessed, and the impact on the citizen and the city needs to be considered for the next step of the evolution. Of course, the other side of the equation is how do we take these services that are dimension-based services into a country-level services, which turns then a smart city into a key catalyst and a key driver to the smart country type of transformation. In order for us to hear more about that, I would like actually to invite our esteemed panelists to contribute their view to this topic. And I would like you to start with providing us your point of view. I'll start with Mohannad.
So these dimensions, it's like a compass within a city. It shows where the city needs to have focus on. So we cannot compare the maturity and development of city like in Dubai or Abu Dhabi with other cities like in Europe and US, because different maturity level requires different also measurement of KPIs. For instance, when you talk about economy, how we look at the economy, we look at it how the impact of city to create value for its stakeholders. Now, this could be convenience and safety for citizens, but also create revenue streams for agency itself. So it can create a feature that can extend its revenue stream. It can create a new concept or new initiative to create a new revenue stream that did not exist without that city dimension. Or it can become an enabler for another adjacent agency to create adjacent opportunities and business. And this is where we create a ecosystem. Also, it can be measured as savings, be it in a citywide where there will be a city code to measure like LEED, to measure how many stars with a city or a building can achieve in terms of efficiencies. This is very important because it needs to create a sustainable model for the city to live. Informed by lots of reports, we need to have a clean energy embedded in the city. And that's like DIWA is focusing on moving from 7% clean energy usage to power Dubai to 75% by 2050. Now, Etisalat is helping a smart service for implementing a city-wide grid by becoming like the connectivity to connect all the smart meters and creating this data to rationalize the consumption. This is really important, not only to create awareness for the consumer, but also to advise them what they need to do, to what is the temperature they need to dial in order to save cost, but also to redistribute the energy across the city. Now, the other dimension, it could be like the mobility. It is a dear topic to telecom operators because one of the assets is, you know where everyone is, where the car is. You can connect the infrastructure layer to the transport layer to the people, mobility layer. And that is really important because if you look at what people do between 5 to 8 o'clock in the morning, they wake up, they consume electricity, water, energy, and then from 8 to 5, the distribution or the demand is shifted from the housing to the offices. And from the data perspective, DIWA and RTA can benefit from each other, how they can redistribute this energy, but also the mobility of people, the commute. Etisalat is also engaged with transport agencies to provide insights, aggregated insights that helps to see from A to B what is the journey in Dubai to advise the data modeling team if they need to extend another lane in that highway or build another highway. Those simulation takes time if you do it manually and surveys and cost. With data from the city, that saves lots of time and cost for the city, and also convenience and happiness for the citizens. Okay. Now, last but not least, we have worked on also on with healthcare with strategic partners, creating that IoT and analytics, predictive analytics especially, to move from a reactive medicine and healthcare to a predictive one. This should increase the life expectancy of people. This would also save a lot on the healthcare providers and insurance. So similar approach can be taken across the nation in order to have your record moved from one hospital in Dubai to Abu Dhabi. And we play a great role in that as operator.
Thank you. Marwan?
Thank you, Labib. Actually, I would like to go back a little bit and remind everybody what happened in GITEX and what happened in even last week as well. Hazan Sheikh Mohammed, when he visited GITEX, immediately the first thing he did was visiting the accelerator program area. The intention is to look exactly at the new innovation, entrepreneurships, what exactly they're lacking, what exactly the areas that they are interested in. This is one area. And second, the initiative which was happened for the past 3 months, where we have globally companies come from the globe to participate here and to share their ideas and innovations to improve and to innovate in different areas in financial and in agriculture and so many areas. So with that, I don't want to repeat what His Excellency Wissam Luta, Yusuf, and Yunus, as well as Uthman Sultan, related our partnership with the Smart Dubai office and building the platform where all the data will be aggregated. So with that, it will be a place where we are going to help a lot of entrepreneurships. The data that we are going to aggregate and ingest from all government entities in Dubai in one single platform and giving them the right information for the entrepreneurships, the information that they need to even advance and accelerate the development and providing the right services to the citizens and the people who are coming even as a tourist, even in the UAE with the right information that will make them even happier by being here. So the platform and the data and the big data, which was discussed in the previous panel, is actually this is one of the use cases. I mean, imagine what else can be provided from this platform. It's like a Pandora box that will be opened, and many other services will be provided. This is one dimension only, which is the internship. What else we can do out of it? What are the services that can get out of it for the industries? Will be a lot. This is the area Undo as well is focusing and helping even the other entrepreneurships as well, and getting other services and involving as well as, for example, in blockchain. This is a new disruptive technology, and in every aspect is not only in financial industry but all other areas as well, where we are going to have an exchange, contracts, data, financial information through a platform from a technology perspective that does not exist even today in a global scale. So again, the dimensions are limitless. I mean, there are so many things that can be provided, and Do is keen and pioneer when it comes to the areas that we are investing and working and accelerating it in the future. Thank you.
Well, so let's just step back a little bit and think about cities and why we have them in the first place. And throughout history, people have congregated in cities for a few reasons, which include safety, economics, and social interaction. In fact, that aligns very well. I'm sure everybody's heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is starting from physiological all the way up to self-actualization. And that really means allowing people to fulfill their potential. And if we think about that for a second, and ultimately why we see cities focusing on different things. For example, there are cities in the region, especially where Huawei works in more emerging markets, where their main focus of the city is around safety. And safe city is a key aspect for them. And this is the next level up from physiological. So unless we've addressed that issue, which is a prime focus, people are not necessarily focused on some of the other aspects further up the hierarchy. But right at the top, in terms of allowing people to fulfill their potential in a city, that is ultimately where I think happiness comes in. Because if you are fulfilled, you are achieved, or you are able to achieve and fulfill your potential as an individual, then certainly it would make me happier if I was able to do that. So, and this is where, what can a city do, and why maybe we see different focuses in different cities can be perhaps better understood. Now, the way we look at it, at least the way I like to look at it, is that this is all part of the digital transformation that we talk about. And digital transformation is enabled by the Internet of Things, IoT, as we talked about earlier. And some of the outcomes from digital transformation are not only smarter cities, but also digitalized industries. And when we talk about digital transformation, it goes from digitization, which is turning analog into digital, allowing us to measure things. So, the old adage that if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So this is allowing us to measure many things across the city, everything from the environment to the transportation, to the education and healthcare, and then be able to manage it better. Ultimately, why? To allow people self-fulfillment and fulfilling people's objectives and unleashing the potential within a population. And this is really where you get innovation. So Marwan was talking about innovation. Well, if I don't have security where I'm living, I might innovate something to help me in my security, but I've perhaps not fulfilled all of my potential. But once we've got that secure, and we're fortunate to live in a city which is secure, it allows us to then unleash the potential within the population in terms of innovation. And now, of course, when we look at the different dimensions of any city, they tend to follow three different areas. First is a set of infrastructure, which allows us to digitize what we're doing. Then a set of use cases, or verticalized use cases, whether it's in healthcare or in transportation and mobility. and then all the way through to the analytics part. And there was some discussion around big data before in terms of what we can do with all of this data in making it easier. So ultimately, what that should allow us to do is to, what I say, click for service, or make things easy for people. And once I can access services within a city easily, I can then spend more time on my fulfilling side of my potential. Thank you.
Smart city is bringing or creating opportunity and happiness to the end user by having wide dimensioning for the same city with optimum usage of the resources. And end users can be consumer or can be business. Operator will play a main role, which is building this infrastructure of helping business. An example in Saudi Arabia, where we have 70% of population is below or around 35 and below. This helps us really to have smarter city because of digitized users, either in business, which is to create a business opportunity, or in, as a consumer. And we have a lot of examples like incident management, which is we have it in different cities. In Yumba, an example, where we work with the government to control this incident and to do also initiative in the traffic management, where also Mobily is playing main role on enhancing and managing this traffic through creating data analysis. And that data analysis, it is a big, what you call it, analytic that we need to do in order to create behaviors, and then after that, create suggesting and proposal of what and where to do the changes for the traffic, an example.
Okay. So we're talking about smart cities. I don't want to be too provoking, but let's think about it. We're talking about it like, especially all of us here sitting from operator perspective, like we're doing so much good and we're trying to come with innovative services, and we want to create happier places for our people. All sounds good, all sounds nice, but let's go back one step. Currently, or actually back in 2008, more than 50% of the world population started living in cities. It was the first time in 2008 more people live in cities than in urban areas. It's projected by 2050 we will have more than 70% of the population of the earth living in cities. We have people living in cities aging by an average of 5 years. They will live 5 years more by 2050. We have on the other side number of cities with more than 10 million people is exploding. So it's not like something. It's not a choice that we need to live in a smarter way. You want to call it smarter city, smart city, connected city, digital city, but the dwellings, the space that we consume, we live in, needs the type of this place needs to change. We need to have all these services that we're talking about. This is a must, or we start to see some of the social issues in some of the cities affecting quality of life, affecting safety, affecting our lives basically. So smart city, we need to establish that, especially us telco operators. I mean, we are part of Deutsche Telecom, so we can claim we are part of this ecosystem, although we try to help our mother company and others move to the other side and see the light at the end of the tunnel. We need to act fast, we need to work, we need to produce something. I was very amused with the previous discussion about data, and actually all the topics that the gentleman raised, they're right, but this is the typical telco behavior. And I have here to extend a bit the metaphor of Osman Sultan in the morning. He was quoting an Arabic singer that if you know how deep the water, you wouldn't swim. This is typical telco behavior. You can imagine we are like telcos, we are standing at the beach or at the shore looking at the water. We dip our toe in it, too cold, yeah, too deep, how much you think? Then we call our friends, our vendors usually. What do you think about that? Shall we jump in? No, we shouldn't jump in. And while we're having this nice conversation, we see two small kids running and jumping in the water, and while we're watching them, they're already at the other side. And these kids who jumps, these are the Facebooks and the Googles that we're talking about all the time. This cannot be, we shouldn't miss this opportunity with smart cities as well. We need to build something proper, sustainable. We need to beat the others that we are lamenting about. They ate our lunch. Well, we let them eat our lunch, if you want to talk about it like that. So telcos need to be more active here. They need to work definitely with cities. I see Dubai maybe is a visionary model. They do that a lot. But the others need to follow suit. And a big question remains, like it's the elephant in the room, investment. At the moment, we see most of the investment coming from the government. But this is not sustainable, especially with the economic situation at the moment. Right. So here, there is a big role for the governments to try to package pockets of value within the smart city ecosystem and try to get private players on board.
Great, thank you. Maybe, Sacha, you want to answer the operator side to what the...
Happy to do so. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me here. I just flew in from a cold country. No, not Switzerland, I'm Swiss. Actually, Saudi Arabia is very cold at the moment already there. So that's why a little bit warmer dressed up, which I now regret. Obviously, from Saudi Arabia perspective, we are pretty jealous of what's happening in Dubai with Smart Dubai. Very impressed. And it's a role model. Saudi Arabia engaged on a little bit different path. Actually, we started even earlier than Dubai when it comes to smartness. Saudi Arabia did tender the big economic cities, industrial cities, actually more than 10 years back. Now we realize it's probably has been a little bit not the ideal approach when it comes to greenfield. Smartness in greenfield has probably not been as pushy as it should be, because you need to have a specific need and you need to have the pressure to resolve that need. When we look at Dubai, obviously the need is to attract business and to retain the global business as a hub, the expat community to build up further, to use it. And there's pressure because there's competition elsewhere and you easily move away. If you don't have these two components in place, then you have problems. Obviously the funding, and in that sense, is of smartness to invest, is something that is important. Here we see in the region that obviously the oil revenue is very, very important to sustain the fundings. Currently, we're having a little bit more challenging times on that. And there is no, let's say, much more constant tax return that helps the cities, for example, to fund their investments. So that's why we see these huge fluctuations. But given that STC in the last 4 or 5 years has undergone a major transformation, and we have built up a lot of capabilities in making us smarter, we actually are somewhat, at least on that side, pleased that now a sobering up has come in and the cities start discussing, especially in Saudi Arabia, start discussing much more focused of what impact do we want to achieve and how we want to achieve that and what are the smart solutions to do so. So instead of the past where, yes, we need to be smart and let's invest, now we're having much more targeted discussions with the Royal Commission in Jubair, in Yanoub, in Makkah, about specific needs that we are able to smarten up. And when it comes to the funding, we're having a lot of discussions about revenue share, so basically co-funding, CapEx in the past. I think the model is shifting much more to OpEx, to have revenue shares, but you cannot share all the revenues for services that don't generate revenues. I mean, there's its public services, there is no tax money normally that you would fund usually these services, and that's currently the challenge that we're in with the discussions of developing smart cities, that what kind of business model you would want to have in place to solve these specific problems.
Okay, thank you.
For the funding issue, I think smart start from the phone that we are carrying, which is smartphone, to maybe smart operator. Okay, and I think operator, they are always in position to be smart on managing their investment, which is smart in managing, reducing their investment, and specifically in OpEx. But if we're going to go for the smart city, then we need to understand that we should have a business case that will support the initiative of a smart city. And that business case will not be only for operator, because operator is one player. You will have different entity within the city, and I just mentioned and 5 minutes ago that Saudi, we have young population, and that help us. An example, if you're going to go for the internet and the data usage in Saudi Arabia, it's a vertical exponential year after year. And why is that? Because of the young population, because of the demand that it created. If you go and benchmark Saudi, and just an example, Saudi is the number one in YouTube playing in the mobile, because there is thirsty on this, what you call it, user-created content that people after it, and you can see that how Saudi are active on social media. This gives opportunity to operators to go and invest, because there is a return of this investment, there is demand on there. These are in consumer portion. If you're going to go for business also, there is also demand in the business. We can go for medium, large, and key account, and maybe smaller demand on the small business for the investment that it will give us a right return of investment. But if you're going to take it in the level of the city, then it is a collaboration between different entity, policy makers, users who offers as a consumer or business, and also operator, which is building up the platform or content or application.
I want to add to what Maziad is saying. I think we have maybe a positive pinky picture than from Saudi, Sacha and Nizar, is that we feel that even though that there's no pressure or pain in the green field, there are some sort of advantages where there are easier alignment on the end objective. That is really important. Also, there is no legacy to hold you back. That's another one. So just to give 2 minutes an example of what Etisalat and Dubai Park they have done is we took the pain point and the vision of the leadership of Dubai Park, where they want to create a safe environment, but a delightful journey in line with Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid and the city of Dubai to create a destination. Dubai becomes a destination for all those visitors. So they don't want people to wait online. They don't want people to worry about where their kids are hanging out. They want people to spend a full entertainment day in one of the 3 theme parks that they built. And we worked with them to create a digital journey. And there we had to change ourselves. So Etisalat cannot work as a part-time on this project with the customer. We have to move from our comfort zone to create a commitment. So skin in the game. We had to invest. This is really important. We had to be full-time. We have to provide the capacity, 400 people on site, to participate with the marketing, with the IT, with the operations team. And these are people who are expert in their field from Disney and Warner Brothers. So it's important that we took the journey for the digital channels, where people can discover the services and ease from their home, from their country, to book, to collect, for instance, their wearables connected to the IoT. So we completely make the technology disappear. We hide it, and we offer those services in order to have a frictionless commerce. People will tap and go. And if you find a way that to secure the data, to make a frictionless commerce, you have created an enormous opportunity and revenue stream in addition to the ticket. So that was really important in a greenfield perspective. And I think that there will be lots of opportunity in Saudi Arabia coming up on a greenfield. I think it's just the business model has to work.
Well, maybe if I can pick this up, what I'm saying is like smart city has been obviously also a lot used for PR perspective, promoting your country, your city. And when the topic emerged 10 plus years back, you started to see who's the peer, who's the leaders, and who are the laggers, and everybody wants to play. Now I think it has become more clear like which are now the leaders, and they will push and do a lot more to stay the leaders and use this as an argument to attract investments and of course improve the lifestyle of its citizens. Now, for those where it's a need, but you don't, like Saudi Arabia, it's very important, but currently, given that we have had a different approach, it's a little bit, we're lagging a little bit behind. We have to catch up, obviously, but we are doing it where the mass population is taking place now. It's not anymore focusing on a PR effort to show, hey, here we're doing great stuff, digital, go in there, have an amazing journey. It's where really the people live and they benefit from it. Come to Riyadh, enjoy the traffic. These are the real tangible problems.
Right.
Come to Riyadh, enjoy the growth of the population and the water need, the electricity need, and you see very, very tangible needs that are being addressed as we speak today. Makkah, obviously, huge aspirations, already huge population when it comes to the peak periods of Hajj period. And here, these are the areas where we will continue to prove that we can be very smart.
Maybe Nizar, you want to pick up on actually
Yes.
the discussion about the required business model for the operators or the fact that we need an ROI and versus really the commitment to the city and to the country development and to really addressing pain points within the infrastructure. So we're not talking only about bells and whistles services or bells and whistles things. We're talking about fundamental services that are based on smart city dimensions of infrastructure, of mobility, of environment, of people, social inclusion of people. When you have young generation, so much in Saudi, the importance of social inclusion and having these people's heard and their opinions about their city and what kind of services they want to be developed in the city is quite important. And that's what the development happened on the smart city level. The smart city concept moved from being a digital or technical city to really being a people's city, to addressing the needs of the people living in the city and the services that they need from the city.
Exactly. I mean, I wanted exactly to go to this point. At the end, if it's smart city or not, you need to sustain this dwelling, this space that you're living in. And a very important factor, actually the only important factor, is the people. So you need to make sure your people are staying there. And you need the younger people because usually the younger people are more productive, they are more entrepreneurial, they build new businesses, they sustain the city. If we take Saudi Arabia, and as Maziad and Sacha said, by let's say 60% or let's say 50% are up to 35, so a lot of young people. These people, they have this, these are what we call millennials, and they have the sense of being entitled. They have this entitlement because we entitle them with the smartphones. They go, I can see that with my young kids, if they are looking at YouTube and then an ad comes, they don't have the patience to look to wait for that. They want to go and see something else. They're always going and consuming stuff digitally in a very quick way. And now these same people, you want them to sit in a car and wait at the traffic light for three minutes or get stuck in traffic. If these guys are finding another better option that's giving them better way of life, that's enforcing their sense of entitlement, they're going to go there, and your city will be going down slowly. So we need to be very careful about that, and then think, when you put that into perspective, then thinking about topics like autonomous driving, it's not a luxury anymore. Autonomous driving, in a way, in the future, it will make sure that you're moving from point A to point B in an optimal way without traffic problems. So these types of services are what your people are looking for. Now, regarding the investment, if you now go and put a business case for autonomous driving or for similar services, I'm not sure, actually, most probably you will not have a good business case. And this is the role of leadership in digital. Leadership are people, and this is what makes Dubai great, and other great cities before. The leaders did not always follow the math of a proper business case. I know it's easy to preach about that. You have a target, your board is looking at the yearly result, but still, if you want to be in it for the future, you need to be a bit more flexible on that.
Right. Marwan, what do you think about the business model and the commitment and the role of the operator within a city? Not just about the business case. There is more than that for an operator.
See, and
The public-private partnerships needs to be enabled to address those services and move the city along.
Operators, they are good at what they have been doing so far. I mean, they have to keep strengthening the core business that they have. They have to keep investing in the fiber connectivity, 5G and beyond. Make sure that all the future services that they can run on top of this infrastructure will be there. However, still they have to start looking at the new ventures, new growth areas, and that is the ICT. We cannot come and say that we are the best and we are the knowledgeable on the health industry, for example. We have to partner and create an ecosystem where we can help that industry to leapfrog and to adapt to the new digitalization in the health industry. And that's where we can create the right business case, or let's say the right ROIs for us as well as for the government, where we can share the revenues and provide the services to them, not only to the government as well as even to the private, to the districts where they are building cities within the city itself. And that's by making sure that we are investing again in the right infrastructure, bringing the right eco partners who can deliver the services in the transportation and the electrical and the other services that is needed by the citizens of that district. However, we cannot come and say that we will do everything by ourselves, and that is will be all the ROIs will be negative. So our advice, the way that we have worked with the Dubai government and Dubai Smart Office is that we work with them in making sure that this business and partnership between government and public or private is actually working fine by having this kind of smart contracts in place.
Safder, you want? Sorry.
Yeah, just to add something in here, I think the contribution from the government will not be only on making the business case positive through funding or whatever, maybe through resources. Example, spectrum. It's very valuable resources for operator. We are going to 5G and we talk about auto drive and we talk about it's gonna be a lot of change. But resources by itself, if this and policy making, that will make the business case positive for the operator in order really to invest more and more, because the investment at the end of the day, I think even the smart city concept, it doesn't come out of the blue just to have a smart city. It comes from opportunity making, number one. Number two is making the people more happier and living in very satisfied life.
Yeah, so the business case thing is a very interesting one. It's been discussed for, I've had discussions around that for many, many years. And I think it's important to understand that a few aspects when it comes to smart cities. So if sometimes we see smart education, smart this, smart. Well, we become really smart when we don't have to call it smart anymore, right? Because it's just done that way. So when we talk about cities, yes, there's an initial need to call it smart to drive something new, but would you really design and live and build cities that were not smart, that were dumb, in other words, which is the opposite of that? And we need to, as some of the speakers have mentioned, need to be able to deliver services in a better way for people to be able to live in a city. Now, when it comes to the business case, of course, has a quantitative and a qualitative side. And for every city, it can be different. I made one comment, for example, when we were in Barcelona just a couple of weeks back. If that event was to be brought to Dubai, it would probably pay for half of the initiatives, if not all of them, right? Through the indirect revenue of people coming here, paying the airport fee, staying in hotels, and going out for meals. So there's different ways. Now, perhaps not every city can do it that way. There's the other aspect part of it, which is, yes, there is an issue, well, you can call it an issue, in terms of funding for city services in Europe, for example, taxation, local taxation, and that's probably why they can't do a lot of things, also because they don't have the money to do it. And it's also about the social contract within a city. Now, there might not be taxation within a certain country or population because that's part of the deal. That's part of the government provides services to the people, and that's just the way it is. Right. So these things cannot be taken in isolation. It's part of what is the social contract. Who's going to, of course, somebody needs to pay for it in the end. It doesn't come out of nowhere. And a lot of the conversations which I end up having to have with cities is, what about PPP? Well, of course, there needs to be a revenue stream. If there's no revenue stream, there's no PPP. And there's a misconception that people have that involve the private sector. Well, how? Right? Money doesn't appear from nowhere. There's got to be a value. Now, that model of value might change. So how everybody extracts their value in the ecosystem needs to be thought about a little bit more broadly and differently from a legacy model. That's true. But it's in terms of our hard classical business case for new service, how much ARPU are we going to get from delivering? That's not going to apply.
Correct. Well, I would like to bring in the audience into this discussion. If there are any questions that the audience would like to ask the esteemed panelists. No? Okay. Well, let me ask you another question then. We talked about a lot of the use cases. We talked about different use cases for different countries. How do you think the selection of the use cases needs to happen at the city level, and then how do we take these use cases to the country level? Which use cases do we start with?
So if I pick that one up quickly, I'm on a flow from the last question. Well, one of the key things, and we've done this exercise for cities, and Labib, I'm sure you're very familiar, is certainly in the classic consulting method of a 2x2 matrix, in terms of ease of implementation versus what? Versus citizen visibility.
Correct.
Maybe, right? Citizen impact.
Citizen value.
Yes. So we can spend a lot of money on modernizing things in the back end that nobody sees, and they wonder, where's all the money gone? Right? And this is a real issue, especially and I've had to deal with city mayors in mega cities with over a 10 million population, where the key factor for them is how to get elected again, right? And unless they're delivering something that people can see, they're going to have a real challenge. You're getting re-elected next time. So not only is it that you're getting people bought into this idea, they can see some impact on people. And and I talked about it right at the start, impact in people. So for me, being able to deliver a service, I can live in a place safely, whatever I want, I can have a click of a button in terms of government service. So I can focus on my self-actualization and fulfillment.
Mohannad, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it goes back to how do we define our KPIs. It's very important to define these KPIs, which means different things to different people. When you talk about the citizens, they want to not be interrupted through their life with their routine work, but there are some essentials to interact with the city, be it a visa. I've just spoke to my friend just now, within 2 days, everything electronic. I remember 5 years ago when we did the visa, we have to go to the typer, you have to put all these documents again. Smart Dubai has all those information there, just with a click of a button. It tells you, this is your MSID, this is your visa. Another thing which we sometimes forget, the private part of the city. I like this brand very much, Emirates. And one of the things that happened to a family member, they're coming from the States to their destination, and the hub is Dubai. Because of the fog, they tell them, thank you, welcome to Dubai, this is your visa, this is your hotel on us. But for every dirham they spent on the Emirates on the hotel, they collected 3 dirhams from the city on the food, beverage, entertainment, Dubai Park, all these things. This is where the business model is you invest on the long haul.
Correct, absolutely. Yeah. Sacha, you comment?
And maybe on the business
Saudi Arabia perspective.
Exactly, maybe on the business perspective, it's social media plays a big role on the pressure. Right. Going for impact, as you said, like KPI, and we have quite a few KPIs that we need to manage now. Saudi Vision 2030 has specified quite a lot of KPIs in the digital space, so that's straightforward. And also when it comes to all the subsidies cut, also clear what consumption needs to change. So from that side, I think we're good. And the pressure now, if you go social media, as Maziad was saying, the populations are all over the place. You hear all the feedbacks you want. There were, let's not mention it too much, but there were like this boycott XYZ companies in Saudi Arabia and in other GCC countries and MENA countries. You see, that puts pressure and people talk about it. So even not having like a taxpayer's accountability where you say like, this is tax money at work, it's still more and more pressure is there to fix services, to make sure that you bring in the smartness, you help better control and manage the city. And in that sense, probably the business case will not be always positive, but the government, one way or another, has to step in to bridge this because pressure is there to make it happen. So we from STC are very much collaborating, having all the discussions, working on these. We have a commitment to the country. We have a commitment to to deploy the infrastructure. I think infrastructure is happening. Now the question is on the convergence layer, application, content layer, how we're going to manage that when it comes to find funding. And here the good thing is we have a long breath, so we still have a little bit of money on the bank that we are able to invest as long as there's a payback guaranteed over some period of time.
Great. I think that there is a few minutes left, actually no minutes left for the session. I would like to thank the panelists for your contribution. I'd like you to help me in thanking them as well.